Yeah.
We are the epitome of Black female love.
Yeah.
Easy for us as Black women to hold up the banner and the calls for everyone else. But again, who holds up the banner and the calls for
that we as a Black church are perpetuating the same behavior as a patriarchal evangelicals have been
That's
doing.
right. Hey, 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 ladies. Hey, hey.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Everybody.
How's everybody?
Hello, Rosalind Leslie from Delaware. Come on, check in. Let us know that you are here. Let us know. Bradford, we've missed you. Let's start with you. How are you? How you doing? What's going on with you?
Well, things are well here, still battling that awful thing called bronchitis, but I'm doing all right here. A little horses going on, but I'm good. No worries at all. All is well. Glad to be back.
Oh, it's good to have you back.
We
Hello,
missed you.
Sharon Mitchell from Michigan. Renee Thompson Jones from Dallas. Come on in. Like, tag, and share this. With someone. Get your people in. We got a mental health day for us on today, and so we're very excited about that. Dr. Wright. How? What I'm trying to. What color is that you got on? What? You're not trying to represent nobody, are you?
It's red for those Kansas City Chiefs that will be winning the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Oh God, you would have to ask her that.
Well, you know what? You do have the right colors on, so either team would work.
Well, this is for the Chiefs. So let me,
I'm just
you know,
saying.
when you pray, you have to be specific. So when my God, ramp those Chiefs up.
Oh dear Lord.
So that's for the Chiefs. It is well. The weather here is absolutely gorgeous. I am back home
Really?
in Kansas City. Yes, and I am so glad to be home. And it's really been very pleasant walking my doggies, my baby.
Wow.
You know, she was so
Your
excited
horses,
when I came home.
your horses.
Mm-mm. The horse, the horse or the bear? Which one are you talking about?
You know, God don't like ugly.
Yeah, which is why we ain't being ugly.
Thank you, Rosalind Powell Leslie.
Ah, okay. All right. I see we need to pause for a special prayer for Rosalind Leslie. All right. Okay.
Go Cowboys, go Detroit Lions.
They're out.
Well, and that's exactly what happened to him, didn't it? I mean, my goodness.
It don't matter.
Oh, yeah, I was pulling for the Detroit Lions, but we're not
Yes.
gonna let the
And I
past be
was
the past.
too.
All right. Wallace, how are you, Wallace? How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. I promise you. I'm wonderful. I have no complaints today at all.
Oh wow. Okay. I don't know if you've ever normally had any complaints. All right. Reverend Jackson, all the way from New Orleans.
Nolans.
Nolans. My favorite.
Bridget
One of my
Miller
favorite.
out of Dallas. Y'all say it again for us. Say it again for us.
Nolans.
Please send us some gumbo.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I don't want no vanilla roux though. Mm-mm.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, my. So you all, I not had an opportunity to watch the news. All of our schedules have been hectic and traveling a lot. I have to believe it was the Lord who told me to turn on the TV today. I have to believe it was the Lord.
I
All
felt
right,
that.
because and so when I turned on this here TV that I got,
Right here.
I saw I mhm. And I felt the shunda happen
Hey,
all
glory.
down deep in my soul. I felt like I needed to tie my tie and drive my Honda. And when I saw on it that the news flashed that 45, that the federal court has said that 45 was not did
Above the
not
law.
have presidential immunity, and that they did not feel that him being tried would affect any future activities of any future president. Come on, what y'all think about that?
Dr. Burns, I, I was, I knew that there was some issues, and I kind of had my reservations about 45. But to hear him go on with how he should have immunity because he's president. So that means, and it reflects back to that comment he made early on when he said, I can shoot somebody in the street and not be charged, because he really believed that. He really believed that. That's a dangerous person. That's a dangerous person. And interestingly enough, I think that all the politicians are beginning to look at him and go, hmm.
You
I
think
don't
so?
know about that.
I
I don't know
don't know
about
about
that.
that, but go ahead, Wallace.
I feel like they have drank some Kool-Aid and they are in a trance. Um, and,
Toxic,
and that
He
toxic.
that
can
there's no
out.
critical thinking involved at all. That whatever craziness is spewed, they buy into that nonsense. So
Mhm.
I really it's a cult to me.
Yeah, but I think some people are waking up. I think there's some
Oh,
waking up going on.
I
You
pray
know, it,
so.
it's
Ah,
there's too many consequences with releasing that.
Mm, mm.
It really is.
releasing what?
Releasing that spirit. I have noticed since he was in office, there have been a rise in crime, a rise the conflict, a rise in shootings, a rise in everything because he carries that spirit.
But
Crooked
Yeah,
I'm
head,
trying to
crooked
figure out.
he's not a
He
moral
just
man.
won two primaries. I'm trying to figure out what are you talking. I want to follow you, my sister, but he just won two primaries.
I'm not banking on that. I really am not.
Mm.
The things which are seen are
Is there
temporal,
anybody
but
in
the
your house
things
that
which
can do a
are
breathalyzer for me?
the things which are not seen, ain't nothing in this coffee but coffee.
Oh, God. I mean,
Oh, oh my God. Oh my God. I don't know, right. I can't walk with you with that one. This craziness that white supremacists seem to support and are afraid of any competition that they would have to compete for anything. They want to continue with what they think is owed to them. So I don't know that is on is Johnson. Even this morning I heard that Mitch McConnell changed his mind on the immigration bill because they talking about 45 and what
hmm
45
Right,
promote.
because he is speaking on the immigration bill. 45 is speaking against the very bill that he promoted but couldn't get passed, and so they did
Hmm.
have the support. But now the Speaker of the House is saying that they can, and I listened to all of that, and it's about that if they pass it now, then Biden gets the credit,
Right.
and so
But
it
from
has
what I'm
nothing to do
hearing,
with
they
the
will,
welfare.
even if they don't pass it now, and by slight chance of hook or crook that 45 is reelected, it will still
Hey,
won't get
hey,
passed.
hey, hey,
It
wait,
won't get
boo,
passed.
wait,
He won't he
wait,
won't be able
oh,
to he won't be able to be successful, is what I'm saying.
we don't need
do
that in
you
that.
realize the terror he will release on this country if by
That's
I
exactly
chance?
know.
what I'm
I don't
saying.
I know what you're saying. I
I
agree
mean,
that
I'm
that
just
should
saying,
never
Wallace,
happen.
you can't even release that from your mouth. You forget you. I know you forget the flow moment. I know you forget it, but there's some stuff you can't release from your mouth.
I think there were pictures. Shall we post?
Let me see. Let me see if I can find some. Oh, yeah.
One of the rolling around ones. Yeah, I think that it would be a very dangerous thing, but I believe that a lot of other people recognize that it would be a very dangerous thing too, But they're living under that old cliche of swear to your own hurt and change not. You know how some folks get stuck, and a lot of them are stuck. But you know what? I'm not giving him that kind of power. I refuse to.
Well, the thing I think that, and audience, let us kind of hear from you. The thing that concerns me the most is not as much as 45 as it is people, the discontent many have with Biden is what concerns me. And so right now, there's not really a motivating force to drive people. And this Israel-Hamas war is not helping or aiding
Right.
anything as we continue to see the number of people in Gaza that are being murdered at this point.
Oh my God.
And that the U.S. isn't doing anything.
The
And so
problem is
that
grocery
because
store.
if voters don't show up at the polls, you're showing up.
Right.
There's a vote if you don't show up. But the problem, I think, with Biden is not so much they keep saying that the economy is better, but when you go to the grocery store, it's not. You can't tell, that prices are still crazy high.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going to kill. That would kill, unfortunately, the Democrats right now. If we don't get a handle on reducing some of the cost of living for people, on necessities like food, it's going to be a problem.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Especially devaluing our seniors. There are so many seniors that are really struggling and not being
Mhm.
able to meet what they need to meet, and out there homeless. This is crazy. This is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and
Well, Wallace, I
yeah,
know that we have a wonderful guest with us on today.
yes.
Will you take a moment to introduce our guest, please?
Yes, our guest is none other than Danielle Danny Buhuro. She is a clinical pastoral educator, certified educator. She has her own um, online center, Sankofa CPE Center, LLC.
All
Our
right.
guest has 2 books that are published that I would invite you all to really look at. Spiritual Care in an Age of Black Lives Matter, examining the spiritual and prophetic needs of African Americans living in a violent America, which is what will happen if certain people are elected. The other one is is there a heaven for a G? A pastoral care approach to gang violence. So our guest has a DMin and is working currently on her PhD. She's a graduate of Union Theological as well as I think it's Colgate or what is it? Chicago. But she
Garrett?
is Garrett. Thank you. She is a officer in the Guild of Clinical Pastoral Education, and she is a mover and shaker in African centered CPE. So let us please welcome our guest, the none other than my special friend Danielle Danny Buhuro. Welcome.
You're
Thank you.
on
Thank you.
mute.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank
How
you.
you
Thank
doing?
you so much. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for this invitation.
Blessings, blessings. We're so happy to have you. Well, how you doing these days with all of this stuff you got going on?
I'm doing wonderful.
Every
I am
time I
doing
look at Facebook, you in a different city.
yes. I've been traveling and living life. Yeah, I'm traveling and living life. Yeah, I'm
Awesome.
doing great. I'm doing great.
Good, good. Well, you are the expert in self-care, and you have some published, I believe, articles around African Americans and self-care. So we really want you to share with us some of the research that you found about self-love and self-care for African Americans.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. I have been reflecting on this amazing book by Dr. Nidra Tawwab. Dr. Nidra Tawwab, last name spelled Tawwab. Tawwab. And she has this amazing book called Set Boundaries, Find Peace. Set Boundaries, Find Peace. She has another book that's awesome and amazing called Drama Free, A Guide to Healthy Family Relationships. And Dr. Tawwab suggests, in some sense, no matter, when we talk about self-care, no matter how much good food we eat, no matter how many times we exercise a day, no matter how much mindfulness we practice, no matter how many yoga sessions we go to, no matter how much water we drink every day, none of that matters if we then take our bodies and surround our bodies with people who don't have our best interests at heart. Dr. Tawwab says we put so much focus in the art of self-care on eating well, drinking enough water, exercising, getting enough sleep, as our sister Tricia Hershey highlights in the NAP ministry.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
And then we'll turn around and go hang out with people who are envious of us or jealous of us or people who emotionally abuse us. She says, so first and foremost, self-love means, in addition to practicing healthy eating habits, self-love is practicing healthy friendships, practicing that we are only putting our physical bodies and our emotional minds in communities that genuinely love us and affirm us. And so I think first and foremost, self-love means doing a reflective practice or inventory on who are the people around us. Do these people have our best interests at heart? Are these people who are authentically and genuinely caring towards us? Or is there some secret jealousy happening? I'm also excited because as we talk about self-love and self-care, Dr. Nidra Tawwab highlights the importance of boundaries. The importance of boundaries. She says, you know, particularly for us in ministry, we struggle with boundaries. She says somehow, particularly in Christianity, we have promoted a myth that overfunctioning is what God ordains in our lives. And so many of us carry a spirit of overfunctioning where we have to be the one to give advice. We have to be the one to handle all of the responsibilities. We have to be the one that takes on the burdens and the tasks of performing a particular duty and responsibility. We wrestle with a Martha spirit in some sense. And Dr. Tawwab says, true self-love means becoming comfortable with saying no. True self-love means becoming comfortable with delegating duties and responsibilities. Self-love means also re-examining our theology. According to Dr. Shaniqua Walker Barnes in her amazing book, Sacred Self-Care, all of us have to re-examine our theologies. I hate to say this, Dr. Wallace, but if I can be vulnerable and transparent, I hate when I visit a worship service and Proverbs 31 is highlighted. I hate when I go to a funeral of a prestigious sister and Proverbs 31 is highlighted as the backdrop for the particular scripture that we are comparing a sister who has physically left this earth to. Because the ultimate question that Dr. Shaniqua Walker Barnes pushes us in her book, Sacred Self-Care, and in her first book, too heavy a yoke,
Look, too heavy.
black women and the burden of strength,
Mm-hmm.
she pushes us to reflect on Proverbs 31. And what exactly does this sister do for herself? If we theologically examine Proverbs 31, we see that this sister is admired for all that she does for her husband, for her children, for the larger community. But there's nothing in any of those passages in Proverbs 31, from verses 1 to 31, that talk about what she's doing for herself.
For herself.
Right? But we lift that scripture up every Women's Day. We lift that scripture up for funerals of particular sisters. We lift that scripture up. We lift that scripture up. And it is a travesty. Mm-hmm. What's even more tragic and trauma-inducing about that story is if you reflect on the very first verse of Proverbs 31, verse 1, you will read that this is actually a description of a woman that a father is telling his son, this is the type of woman you should aspire to have in your life and ultimately marry. And so the tragedy of Proverbs 31 is it is so rooted in patriarchy and sexism, male dominance and heterosexism from the very undertakings and reflections of the very first verse of what a father is saying to his son. But yet we take this scripture and we lift it up as if suffering is a sacred badge of honor that will give us special keys to the kingdom. But a question we don't ask ourselves is, I wonder if this quote unquote virtuous woman wrestled with high blood pressure, diabetes, congestive heart failure, cancer. I wonder if she had a stroke for all of the duties and responsibilities that she is said to have been called to do in these 31 verses. So self-love means, first and foremost, in my opinion, based on the work of Dr. Shaniqua Walker Barnes and based on the work of Dr. Nidra Tawwab, sacred self-care means, first and foremost, how are we resisting overfunctioning? How are we honoring boundaries? I also believe, last but not least, sacred self-love is also our connectedness to our elders. I am 45 years old, and many of my friends are in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s, and a few of them are in their 50s. And I am sad to say, even though I'm an ordained clergy of the United Church of Christ, I was born and raised Baptist. My mother likes to remind me I was a Baptist born and a Baptist bred, and when I die, I'll be a Baptist dead. And I am deeply saddened by the ways in which in 2024, there's a disconnect of our younger generation to our older generation. Mm-hmm. We live in a cancel culture period that tells people of my age category, you don't need to listen to the elders anymore. You don't need to listen to Big Mama. You don't need to listen to Granddaddy. And as a result of this disconnection, we are not loving ourselves. A wonderful gentleman, African-centered psychologist by the name of Naeem Akbar, in his book, Know Thyself, says one of the challenges with our younger generation today is they are disconnected from themselves because of their inability to want to remain connected to the elders. This period of cancel culture says, don't listen to your parents anymore. Don't listen to your grandparents anymore. Go it alone. And as a result, we are now disconnected from ourselves because of this spirit of cancel culture that we want to lift up. And so for me, an act of self-love also means, when is the last time you had a conversation with your mama? When is the last time you had a conversation with your grandmama? When is the last time you had a conversation with your dad? When is the last time you had a conversation with your grandpa? Right? What is it about our generation that we have seemed to lose our essence for wanting to connect with the elders?
That's real African spirituality right there, that the elders are always honored. We give reverence to the elders. and we used to. I think we probably have bought into this white supremacist me, mine, and thine. It's just all
Mhm.
about me, rather than embracing our own African culture and our African spirituality.
I have never in the history of my life being on this world for 45 years, I've never seen any Jewish friend talk about the atrocities of their Jewish synagogue and their Jewish rabbis. I've never, in the history of 45 years,
Mm.
I've never seen them rip the Jewish synagogue on Facebook, on Twitter, on social media. But all of a sudden, I log on to Facebook and I see people ripping the Black church left and right. And so I am reminded of what our brother Malcolm X said. Who taught you to hate yourself?
Mm.
Never do I ever read any of my Jewish brothers and sisters talking about a female Jewish rabbi who preached at a Jewish convention and addressed issues of patriarchy and sexism and male dominance. And then we rip this Jewish female rabbi. I have never seen a group of Jewish religious leaders say, oh, this sister who preached at the Jewish convention was terrible. And we're
Come on,
gonna
be like Claudia.
delete her sermon from the rolls. I have never in my life seen that. I have never seen at a Jewish convention people then use social media to rip a female Jewish rabbi to shreds and harass them and say, we're not going to show that Jewish rabbi's image in media anymore. I've never seen that. But that happens amongst us and what we do to our Black church and how we criticize our Black preachers. Things that make you go,
Mm.
Danielle, I hear what you're saying, and I agree to a point. There has been so much that has been embedded and taught, and it's not an excuse because we need to make the decision to change the narrative. We need to make the decision how to fix that. So I'm gonna go back to mom. My father was Baptist deacon, and he had an issue with me as a pastor. However, nowhere in the Bible did Christ teach religion. He said you must be born again. He didn't say the Baptists were going to beat the Methodists, and I know for sure that the
Didn't have-
Lutherans were going to be the Jehovah's Witnesses. He didn't. None of that. That's us. That's all us. And until we make a decision to change that narrative, same way with our children. My mom is 93. My dad is 94. Gave my mom a birthday party. I called all of my grandchildren. I said, if you like living, you'll be there.
most definitely.
They showed it in full force.
Mm-hmm.
We as parents have
Mhm.
to take that stand because even at the age that I'm at, I still say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, because I like what few teeth I got left.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
And so we have to do our due diligence and stop rolling on what they did and what they said and make a decision to make it better, to make the change. Conversation was going on yesterday about the women that don't wear slips anymore and don't wear girdles, but that was the conversation that the old people had with us. And in many churches, the older voice has been silenced because nobody want to hear what they got to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like to say,
Mm-hmm.
unless they add value to us.
Yeah, most definitely. When is the last time you heard?
I think I would like.
When was the last time we heard of a Jewish rabbi suing their Jewish synagogue?
But I think also, Doctor, as listening to that in order to be a rabbi, that there is certain mandated training and teaching that they must go through. Whereas when we look at the Black church, or many churches, regardless of race, but many churches, but we're talking about the critique that's often done in the Black church, it is done by people who, number one, some of the critique happens because those who are in leadership are not trained. And so what they are spewing is neither biblical nor historically correct, where you don't have those issues with the teaching and the training from a rabbi, just based on the rigor and the study that a rabbi must have. And so when we look at some of the critique that happens, let's just say, as you inferred to Dr. Stewart, that here it is, Dr. Stewart, who has been preaching for decades, who's trained, who leads an organization, who's been pastoring, and then you have a bunch of other numbnuts who, just they've taken, one little scripture and blown it way out of context, and they use it, but they're leading congregations and people. So where is it that the critique, where is it that we would do the critique? I guess, in saying all of that, would be my question to you.
I'm going to say something, and then I'm so sorry. I've got to jump off. I'm going to say something. My sense of sadness is I'm seeing a reoccurring theme of folks who have gone to seminary and still lifting up patriarchy, folks who have MDivs, DMins, and even PhDs still lifting up internalized sexism, internalized homophobia, internalized transphobia, internalized racism, all various types of isms. And that's what interests me the most, right? That now more than ever, we are seeing large numbers of folks who are trained, who have been to seminary, who've taken 852 units of clinical pastoral education and still talking as if all they have is a high school diploma. That is the reoccurring thing. As if going to seminary was just the checkbox that they marked off that they did, but they didn't have a psychological transformation, a sociological transformation, an anthropological transformation, or a theological transformation. I am wondering about that. I can accept ignorance and mediocrity when it comes from folks who haven't been to seminary. I'm more so interested in how do we challenge the mediocrity that comes from folks who have went to seminary and do have so many letters behind their names and are still theologically ignorant and practicing theological malpractice. That becomes the question that should shift us in these moments. Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Blessings. I know you have to jump off, but we really appreciate what you've offered to us. I think you've given us some stuff that we can talk and continue to carry the conversation around ignorance and education. I agree with you that there are too many, way too many, especially African American, that are educated and still continue to spew craziness, incorrect theology, or even the absence of critical thinking when it comes to looking at the text, the biblical text.
Thank you. Blessings to you all. Happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month. Bye-bye. Wow. Woo. What you got? What say you guys about educated folks spewing hegemony and racism, sexism, and all of the other isms?
It happens every day. But I know too, we must do our due diligence to do better, to reflect, to show something differently. Even with our young people, I believe our young people, they look at us and they have an expectation of something different. They have an expectation of how you're going to act. Just like I think I shared with you guys on last week when my son showed me the video from New Year's. He's not in church, but and he said, "Ma," he said, This man didn't even have the wisdom to use the edited version. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well,
Mhm.
they got a clean version, Ma. He said he just played the one we listened to. So while I'm doing my due diligence trying to bring my baby back in the house, I got you over here doing you. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So I'm not making excuses for them. We're not making excuses for them, but we have to continue to reflect and continue to show and continue to do the right thing in the
One of
present.
our guests talked about colonizers, and we have um oh my goodness, I think I asked you guys to go back and look at Freddie Haynes' sermon on the Sunday following the National Baptist Convention, and how he talked about um how I won't say we, how some African Americans continue to be hoodwinked with this colonized white Jesus. There's no way in the world that you could hide for 3 years and have blonde hair and blue eyes in North Africa. You couldn't hide. You would be sticking out everywhere. So until we, and I don't know what the answer
So I
is
so
about how we educate. I don't.
um I don't and you all know that I'm very Afrocentric in my thinking. When we're talking about the case like with Dr. Gina Stewart and the ritual that came behind that, I'm not as concerned about the white Jesus as I am about, in some aspects, the black man's Jesus
Mm,
that has done that continues to perpetuate an oppression upon the people that I think Jesus says in the scripture that they keep putting on heavy burdens and ladens that they themselves are not willing to carry. So they keep putting these burdens on, but quote, if it is the white man, it's an atrocity. But if
Mm,
I do it to my people, whether it be male or female, gay or straight,
it's
if I
also
do it
okay.
to my people, it's okay
Mm,
because that is that quote is the community of which I know that I'm ministering to. And so I think for us to talk about, quote, white man's Jesus becomes a diversion to the real issues that continue to raise its head within the Black church.
hmm.
mm, mm, mm.
So
I
what
think
would
I
be
think we need I think
your
we need to look
what
at the
would
Black
you
man's
offer?
Jesus.
We're just
What
carrying
would you
out
offer
a
as an
colonized vision that's been portrayed. Period. Go ahead, Wallace.
I was just curious about what do we offer to our people, and particularly Black women who continue to flock to these churches where they are being abused. It's crazy to me because we have bought into a colonized way of thinking rather than looking for our own liberation and our own soul salvation.
And again, I guess I'm just going to be the advocate that pushes the envelope on the other end. I continue to think it is easier when we use colonization, and I understand it in its construct. I think it becomes easier when we use that because what it also does is that it takes the responsibility off of many Black male and some female pastors. And so when we go back to talking about white man's Jesus, I think we need to look at the oppression that we have if a white man never enters into our churches, we have authority in our churches. And I think we need to look at that system that we have allowed in our church that the white man really doesn't have anything to do with. And that's what I mean by, I think we need to look
But
at
it's
the
the
black man's Jesus.
internalization of it that is what is being portrayed in my mind in the black church. It's
The
not,
what?
no, the white man ain't there, but the white man is inside of folk in their thinking about oppression, because it's the same oppression. If a black man oppresses a female, it's the same as a male oppressing a female. So I'm not sure I
I think
follow.
you think I'm disagreeing with you. I am not
Mm.
disagreeing with you. I'm saying that I think we need to shift the lens for which we look through. Because whenever we continue to say, quote, white man's Jesus, then what we've done is given a scapegoat to the things that we have control and power over. Therefore, we continue, whenever we use that language, we continue to release our power to some other source instead of owning that, no, this is my Jesus. And this is what I have bought into, and begin to deconstruct that and so that we have power in that. But whenever we say white man's Jesus, we continue to put it on the outside and not deal with the issue of what is on the inside and work with it and own it and claim it for ourselves and begin to do our liberation both within and for our communities. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think that we need to wrestle with the language that we have embraced, because the language we use continues to allow there to be a scapegoat. It continues to allow there to be an excuse instead of claiming and owning what we have the power to claim and to own.
I guess my concern is, how do we promote responsibility? Because it is a to me, it's a responsibility of all of us to do our due diligence, and not just go around spewing what somebody else said. We've got to know for ourselves. As Danny said, we got to know thyself, and we don't know who we are. And until we own who we are and the power that we have within us, it's going to continue to be the same old, same old.
Dr. Wallace.
Let me say this, I'm a husband. Let you talk, right? I agree. I think that the power can start with Big Mama says to that grandboy that what you're doing to your wife, not even deal with the church, is not acceptable and okay. But we have the power as women who have raised sons to speak to that. I'm just simply saying there's some things that we can own and claim for ourselves without including the white man in the discussion. That's all I'm saying.
Dr. Amanada put a comment in. She said, until we develop our own theology, and that requires us to do the work of scripture devoid of OP voices, the oppressors' voices. And then Kai Horn Elamine says, particularly when those who are in leadership have become the Praetorian Guard protecting capitalistic ideals, telling us who Jesus is, as opposed to discovering the God who Jesus served and how spirit manifested in inclusive ways.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I hear what you're saying. I still believe that much of this goes back to us taking responsibility and being accountable. There is too much available now to us via the internet, via the library, via the ancestors, for us to continue to walk in ignorance. There's just too much. One of my favorite shows is Finding Your Roots with Lewis Gates. I love that show. And there is so much that's available to us. We got to stop making excuses and do our due diligence.
I agree with you. I agree 100%. My only concern is us. It's the women. It's often the
Uh,
women who also promote this foolishness.
yeah, well, I'm not gonna wear all that because men can be catty. Men can be catty. I mean,
I'm not talking about cattiness. I'm talking about support. Black women continue to support foolishness that spews out of the mouths of many male preachers. They support that. We have Black women who are in church every Sunday and hear this, and they don't challenge it at all.
but you know what, Dr. Wallace? That's their insecurities. That's their insecurity, and it doesn't make it right. But you know, they have been told this, told this, told this, told this, and again, they're afraid to step out of the box. They're afraid
So
to
how do we
say,
break the cycle then, right? How where I want to know how, what can we do other than, I think we are a platform to help educate Black women.
a
I do.
major
But there
platform.
are other, what are some other ways in which we can get to the big mamas and the folk in the pews that don't maybe watch or listen to our broadcasts and podcasts?
It's in your neighborhood. It's at the senior community center. It's in the church social hall. Those, if that's the audience that you want, then that's what you got there, where you got to go. You got to walk it out. You got to walk right on in there and begin to have that conversation with them. I think some of this has to go back to letting them know how valuable their voice truly is. They've been silenced for so long. We need to let them know how valuable their voice really is. And it's is what it is.
I
They've got a
think
lot to
sometimes
say.
we don't want to wear the banner
Mm,
that is required to stand up and stand out. We would much
and
rather be okay with the status quo rather than rock the boat, because it takes courage. It takes courage to rock the boat. And sometimes you have to walk away from foolishness and oppression. And I wear that banner. I had to leave a place because it was oppressive and they wanted to deny the call that God had on my life. I had to walk away. That requires courage. And everybody don't have those kind of cojones. They don't. They would much rather just go along to get along. And that's the cycle I think we've got to break.
That's because that's what's embedded in them. And it takes work. It takes work. It takes constant teaching. One of the things that I have always admired about Dr. Burns is she gets that little smirk on her face and you know it's coming. You just brace yourself because it is coming. And whether you like it or not, but our thing is to ask God to give us the grace and the wisdom how to bring it forward. And everybody, when you say that everybody doesn't have that, you're right. Because some people just feel like, well, I'm just being transparent, so I'm just going to say what I want to say. No, you're ignorant.
Mhm.
That's ignorant.
Yeah, it is a way in which you do it. You're correct.
Absolutely. And so we have to ask God to give us the wisdom how to present and how to say it with character, finesse, and grace.
And integrity.
And I promise you, it'll change up some things. It'll change up some things. But it ain't as many dumb women as you think.
Oh no, I'm not. I don't think any of us are really dumb. I really don't.
Some have just made a decision to
Hmm.
walk in the patriarchy, period.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
it has nothing to do with being ignorant. It,
Hmm.
it is a decision that we have made to walk that way. So no.
And that's what's that it's kind of I've always said when people come to the church and I always get excited when they don't have a church home, didn't come from another church. If they come from a church, another church, I tell them, does your pastor know that you're making a decision to leave? And they go, well, no, well, you probably need to go and to ask him. I like that years ago you had to bring a letter. You know why? Because whatever mess you was doing over there, you ain't bringing it over here.
Exactly.
And if they know that you on your way, they gonna say something. And so when people come in, they say, but at my old church, we did this. At my old church, this ain't your old church, sweetest new sheriff in town. And a lot of people can't handle change. And so we have to, again, be able to gracefully be free to disagree, and then let them know why we're disagreeing and why it is better for them. That our Bible tells us, in all thy getting, get an understanding. Get an understanding. When we know better, we do better.
I understand. I believe that.
Well, ladies, this has been absolutely phenomenal on today. Wrestling with this, y'all. I got my black Jesus. Y'all got your white one. Go ahead.
My Jesus ain't
No,
white.
I don't. My Jesus looked like me, and my God looked like me too.
But thank you all for just really, and thank you all, our viewing audience, for staying with us and for your comments and your chats with us. So we look forward. Lord says the same, that we will see you on next week.
So next week, ladies, get your husbands, get them to the table. We have George Williams from Williams Financial. He's great
So
wisdom.
we won't break.
Huh?
Okay.
We on break next week.
All right.
Okay.
Love y'all.
God bless.
God bless. All right. Bye-bye.
Love you guys.